And we are live. It is John Pollock and Wai Ting coming off of WWE's Night of Champions, where tonight we saw two champions in action.
I guess you're right. I mean, is the King of the Ring not considered a championship in some way?
Not really. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
it's a title. It's an
Yeah.
achievement. You know
Okay.
what? It was a night of champions in the crowd that got comps. That we got.
Champion. Oh, okay. Yes, the
They
champions
showed
were in the
the
crowd. Yeah.
Profits, Legato, Tiffany.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
how are you, Wai? How is your Saturday treating you?
It's fine. I don't mind these afternoon shows so much. Today, at least, I thought it was perfectly fine. And I'm looking forward to maybe finishing this before dinner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Wai wants to get right into those early prelims tonight, and then
Oh,
into
exactly.
yeah.
Of
So
course.
we'll keep you on track, Wai. I know you don't want to miss any of that. Well, first of all, before we go into today's show from Saudi Arabia, I do want to make mention of the interview that we did earlier this week with Kareem Zidane on Pollock and Thurston. Kareem is always, I think, a really enlightening voice to always be discussing these shows and the fact of the reason that these shows are happening. And I think you echoed this on Friday, Wai, but I think they are very much sort of just enveloped now into the fabric of these WWE events, that they are much more just closely aligned as your pay-per-view of the month. But I think it is always still very important to be looking at a lot of this. And in particular, I think for this show, where even the people that just want the politics removed from all of this, that was impossible with the lead up to the promotion of Cena and Punk, and especially with the news involving Punk over these last 24 hours. Like, it was absolutely impossible to divorce the two if you are just one of those people that, hey, I'm just watching my wrestling. I don't need a geopolitical lesson.
Oh, the controversy attached to the Saudi Arabia shows was entirely a part of this storyline. I mean, it wasn't blatantly stated, but it was certainly implied heavily. And so I think to fully understand, like even the story of this particular title match, but certainly the greater discussion as it relates to the health of this company and just sort of like maybe uh, I would say political opinions surrounding this very unique series of events, a very worthy listen. Yes.
So you can check that out on this past Wednesday's Pollock and Thurston as well. Very meaningful chat. Not only talking about kind of the promotion, like utilizing Saudi Arabia as almost a character in this lead up with Cena and Punk, but also discussing kind of Saudi Arabia's foothold at large when it comes to sports. And when you look at where Vision 2030 began and what it has achieved over all of these years with Saudi Arabia, and as well Turkey Al Sheikh, who has become just such a dominant force, the dominant force in boxing, and that is going to be extended now through the launch of Zuffa Boxing, which was discussed a bit on tonight's show. They did promote the fact of Canelo and Crawford happening in September, and we even had Michael Cole confirming the fact that UNLV had to move their football game at Allegiant Stadium to accommodate this fight, which had been reported previously, but stated outright here. The pre-show, there was not a whole lot to this. There were several promos or interviews, I should say, with Jade Cargill, Rhea Ripley, and Karrion Kross leading into the show, and also Jackie Redmond recapping last night's much discussed CM Punk freestyle, where she said that Punk's rap was the perfect amount of serious jabs and a solid rap, and the perfect amount of cringe considering CM Punk's age, and that he will be a meme forever. So this was one of those. She said it in such a glowing and like laughing way that I cannot tell if this was being if this was a compliment or an insult. But he will forever be a meme, and that he looked absolutely ridiculous was Jackie Redmond's conclusion, which I think she would have most critics on her side with that assessment. I know you and Neil discussed the rap very heavily from Friday night.
Well, honestly, I don't know how any other way to take it, but an attempt at, I would suggest, intentional cringe from a man who probably has never done a freestyle rap before, dressing essentially like a clown for the purpose of, I think, garnering laughter, or to entertain and maybe to diffuse what would have been a negative situation. but also I think just like, I mean, we know, you know, like I think Jackie's just kind of pointing out the intent of the segment.
Yeah, I think you can look at, like, I heard your discussion with Neil. I certainly think that sometimes in these certain situations we can kind of go to the extreme and look at like what impact is this going to have on CM Punk, and we really don't know. Like come SummerSlam, perhaps all of this is just some distant memory, but this to me has been an extremely puzzling several weeks of positioning of CM Punk, who CM Punk is not a clown, and he is also not presented as this hypocrite that they have kind of purposed him into this role as. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to have like any kind of consequence on the kind of the CM Punk character itself, but I find it to be a really perplexing handling of one of your hottest baby faces that I think they really put this guy through the ringer in these 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting, I would say, like test of like even the most like diehard CM Punk like defenders sort of like feelings towards him. Certainly, like I think when it comes to like live reactions in arena, I don't think that'll change. I think he's like a big enough star that like, you know, he'll still get cheered, and it's not like he's Hulk Hogan. Okay, he's not going to like I don't think he's turned enough people off to like elicit anywhere near that sort of reaction. I still think he'll get cheered, but like I think online discourse surrounding him might be a little bit different now, which, you know, but again, I would have said the same thing after Brawl Out. I would have said the same thing after Brawl In, and the man has survived all of those things.
I think though the one difference is that post Brawl Out, like at the very, like again, for your Punk defense, it's here is a guy that is so real that will stand up even if it puts him in a bad light. And this guy, we may acknowledge, can be unprofessional, but this guy is a rebel in this industry, and he's our guy. And this, I just don't think Punk can have it both ways, where one weekend you're at a No Kings rally, and then you're in Saudi Arabia. Like that to me, you know, it's very hard when you can preach, you know, so many of your politics in the U.S., and then it's completely, like you can't have the strong voice, and then it is not met with action, I think, with a CM Punk. And I think to his defenders, they have not been given much ammunition to defend this. Like this has never been about, I'll let you get in here. Like again, this is never about the fans of Saudi Arabia. This is very clearly, this is a government that many people have a lot of problems with when a WWE is in business to present the virtues of this government. This is nothing against the audience receiving WWE, but there is a reason pre-2014 WWE was never going to Saudi Arabia to give these fans the entertainment of WWE. They are financially implored to deliver these shows. Like that is the reason they are here. This is a transaction, and for CM Punk to come over here, I would not take CM Punk's comments even to be negative towards the people of Saudi Arabia, the fans of Saudi Arabia.
You mean the tweet in addition to like some of the interview clips that have resurfaced recently? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I would not say he was ever directing his problems with the people of Saudi Arabia. It was with the government, with the regime, with the lack of rights. I think that you can very much parse through what he was acknowledging here. And I think there was a way to maybe thread this needle with a little bit more.
How, I guess, would be my question. Like, do you think he would have gone on stage and would have said, my problem isn't with you guys, it's with your government who is paying for me to be here?
I think that, listen, there was never going to be a clean way for Punk to do this, given his past statements that he made. There was never going to be a clean way, but they chose the way that was going to make him show the most amount of ass in doing it, I feel.
By putting him into the storyline in the main event.
Putting all of it. Yeah. Like, to me, like it's the storyline this year of the Rock wanting Cody's soul. Like, we've watched a real life storyline to the CM Punk defender watching this man mortgage his soul. And I think as well the fact that this is not someone who apologized for any of this years ago. Like, oops, bad tweet. I shouldn't have said that. Or he he has acknowledged it now when it is most convenient for his career to walk those things back. And I think you can't divorce that either. This is not like this guy just came out of nowhere with let's change this one up, okay? When Ronda Rousey, and granted, she had a book coming out, but I really don't think that was the prime reason. She came out and she acknowledged the Sandy Hook bullshit that she retweeted. Mm-hmm. And that was not, it was not like she had this, she was about to go do, some big career move that necessitated this. Like, a book is one thing. It's like the book was not going to make or break her. But she opted to voluntarily apologize for some really horrible shit that she spread. And with a Punk, would he have ever have made this apology if not for having to do a Saudi Arabia show?
So I would argue, like in the instance of Ronda, maybe in the instance of Punk too, like there was no real incentive, and I would suggest no real forum to invite that sort of conversation for Ronda Rousey other than something like an autobiography. And maybe with CM Punk, it would have been similar.
She didn't write this in her book. She posted it on her own.
Before the book, like as
before
the book was being released?
This was as the book had come out. She had done an interview, and this had come up.
So what prompted the response?
She was doing I think it was like a YouTube chat or something, or a Reddit. She was doing a Reddit, like an Ask Me Anything, and people just pelted it with this Sandy Hook stuff. It did put her in a position to have to address it, but it was after the book had come out.
I guess, like, do we know if, like, I'm sure Punk has had similar, but I don't think, to my knowledge, Punk has ever done an AMA or anything of that nature, nor, like, do I know if he was actually deliberately asked these sort of questions post rejoining the WWE. But listen, man, like, as I said on the Friday show, I mean, I feel like what's going on is relatively transparent in that this is a man who at this point is there to go to work. And going to work means having to answer for your past. And if there are any lessons to be taken from this, it's number one, don't look towards celebrity for any sort of like guidance of a moral compass. And number two, maybe be careful of what you tweet out and the judgment that you're going to make. I mean, I think the people are especially hard on Punk for these past tweets as opposed to maybe other performance, because he's
going to be judged way more harshly than others will.
He has been harsh in judging other people.
Of course.
And so it's just kind of like, reflecting the energy that I think he's given out.
Yeah. I don't think he is being treated unfairly by the public at large here. I think he put himself into a corner where this is the transaction. You don't just get to magically eliminate past things you've said and that doesn't have some consequence in terms of fan revolt or backlash toward you, especially those that were as many like Punk defenders as there were out there that did stand by this guy when many people were anti CM Punk for whatever discretions over the last number of years, for going back to WWE, like whatever you want to say. He has, he put himself in this position, and I can't say I'm sitting here and looking at this guy as someone that is, oh, poor Punk. Like, that's, you're an adult and you're making this decision. That's fine. But I think everyone has the absolute right to question the genuineness, the convenience of it for him, and that he is going to work. This is a career motivated move, whether his real feelings are that or not. Like, I don't look at this guy as, your moral compass. And it probably is a good lesson for people that it's very easy to present a message and it's received well. But sometimes you will have to do a U-turn on some of that. And we've seen many people in pro wrestling when it comes to these Saudi Arabia shows or other instances where they have had to go back. The next one will be if a Britt Baker ever shows up in WWE. No doubt she will end up on one of these shows, and everyone will bring up that AEW promo that she did about Saudi Arabia. So it just
won't be nearly as big of a story because
it won't be because Britt Baker is not CM Punk, but it will be brought up.
Sure, yeah. Eventually CM Punk is going to be doing another podcast interview, whether it be with like a Hawani or like somebody else. And I think as somebody who's kind of been known for speaking his mind in these sort of podcasts and maybe making some headlines, I would hope that whoever gets that chance to interview him next will bring this up, because I think it's going to be a very still top of mind topic in regards to CM Punk. And I'm very curious to see like what sort of answer Punk will have prepared to directly discuss this, because I don't really expect that sort of response this weekend, certainly not on stage at like a kickoff event, but with enough time passed, how is he going to have that sort of dialogue with maybe his biggest critics for this move?
Well, maybe someone will get a front row seat at the next kickoff event from the stage and be able to ask Punk, and Punk will address it on the stage.
Could maybe, yes.
How did you feel about the idea of them playing that to the audience in Saudi Arabia on Friday? For those that aren't up to speed on this, when Punk did the apology at the kickoff show, that spread everywhere online, but WWE did air that not on television, but to the live audience in Riyadh on Friday night. Like, whatever you want to say about this situation, and I think you're completely fair to look at this with a degree of skepticism when WWE took it as a promotional tool to present to the audience on Friday of CM Punk pretty much, admitting his error here and apologizing to this fan and to Saudi Arabia at large for his 2020 tweet.
It suggests to me that okay, whether or not this fan was a plant, I do sense that at least a discussion might have taken place with CM Punk and whoever else as part of the WWE to engage in this sort of like apology if the chance provided itself. And if it wasn't, maybe Punk would have volunteered the opportunity. But clearly they were sensing some sort of sentiment towards Punk. And I think they knew that they needed to diffuse it, and they got the diffusion via this very heartwarming scene of CM Punk apologizing to the people to this fan in particular, saying "I love Saudi Arabia" and embracing this fan afterwards. And clearly they were happy enough with it, and clearly it was a successful enough clip that I thought it actually did a whole lot in turning the crowd around, both last night and also tonight.
Yeah, like for both nights, he still got some boos, but it was predominantly pro Punk, as opposed to, like, I went into this weekend not thinking he was going to get booed, but if you had taken this apology out, like, certainly this crowd, like this, it does tell you that this is a different Saudi crowd than years past, where it just felt they were here to see the stars and maybe were not as aware of some of these background stories. But this was one, like, this audience, they were fully aware and they were ready to boo CM Punk, and that was evident during the entrances yesterday and before this apology. And I think there's probably something to your theory of, it's almost like that Lesnar Taker deal at the UFC card in Anaheim, where they were going to do something at that show, like backstage, but it just so happened that Ariel Helwani is interviewing The Undertaker and Lesnar sees an opportunity, and they knew they were going to do something, but here there was this golden opportunity, and you could have had Punk that went onto that stage with the intent of somehow working in this apology, and something fell into his lap. I think you can look at many different angles of how this all came together, but at the end of the day, WWE used this for all it was worth to get the desired reaction they wanted for CM Punk, and also tells you, like, the idea of, shifting Punk into a heel role does not appear to be on their agenda, which makes a lot of this stuff perplexing to me.
100%. And I think, like, also just in totality now, seeing like the discourse that they were providing specifically for the Saudi crowd versus the presentation we got to see in the lead up to Night of Champions and the build towards Night of Champions, where we never had any sort of like answer from Punk regarding the accusations of hypocrisy or just even addressing, what he said about Saudi in general, has certainly made this entire thing very awkward. And I think, like, almost, I would say manipulative, in whatever they were trying to achieve here.
Well, that was the backdrop going into the show, and there was an opening video from Tom Rinaldi, and like SmackDown on Friday, no other sponsorship beyond Riyadh season, which I think would mean that Riyadh season, when they're forking over $45 million, they have an exclusivity. There will be no Slim Jim tables. to be had.
No, somebody did bring up the fact that Slim Jim I guess has pork in it and is probably most certainly not halal. I mean, I don't know if that would have had any sort of effect on them choosing to market but these are
Yeah, but
still
there were
international
no other
shows.
sponsors. It goes
Yeah.
beyond Slim Jim. Like there was
No
nothing here.
Prime.
There was no Real American Beer. There was no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So our announcers for the second night in a row, Michael Cole and Wade Barrett, and they are starting off with the number two match in terms of promotion, Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes in the King of the Ring final, and an electric crowd that is going nuts for both men's entrances. They note that this is their first singles match since 2013. Randy is 7-3 in past matches. Lots of Olay chants, and Cody and Orton just pause, taking in the environment, and we got a whole match built around Randy's back. He delivers a superplex, and damn it, his lower back. And Cody, I liked how Cody worked this, where he played almost, I wouldn't even say subtle heel, but like he took advantage of Orton's weakened back, and at one point wrapping the back around the post, and Wade Barrett piping in that, hey, if the roles were reversed, Randy would do the exact same thing. So they weren't trying to but by this, the crowd was so behind Randy. They were all chanting RKO and let's go Randy. And Orton finally comes back. He goes for the draping DDT. It's stopped as Cody again goes to the back, lands a Cody cutter, then one off the top. And Orton survives, kicking out, and hits his draping DDT and goes wild as he signals for the RKO, which gets countered into a crossroads, and Randy kicks out of the crossroads. So Cody then is kind of just walking in the corner, and out of nowhere, Randy pops up as Cody walks into an RKO for a big near fall spot. Then Orton, after kicking out, he goes into the corner and he has a crisis of ego here. Do I go for the punt or not? So instead of staring at the hands, I was waiting for him to sit down and stare at his feet. I think that's the evolution of the Sean spot. But he finally decides to go for it, but he's given Cody too much time as he avoids the punt, and he applies a figure four. After Randy gets out of the figure four, there's a disaster kick into an RKO for a big 2 count. Randy grabs the chair, which Charles Robinson takes away, but it's a decoy as Orton, behind the ref's back, takes off the turnbuckle pad, and Randy Orton, watching one too many Toro Yano streams, gets caught as he is the one gets sent into the exposed buckle, followed by a crossroads, and Cody wins in 19 minutes and 45 seconds as Cody Rhodes is presented with the crown that I don't know how many wears we are going to get out of this crown for King Cody, but he is the King of the Ring for the next month.
For the next month, yeah. Well, for the next year until
this is what this kind of expires at SummerSlam, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I guess he could run with this as long as he wants. But
King Cody, yeah. I don't know if he'll be doing the King gimmick beyond this, but hey, I thought this was a really excellent match. I thought felt like a very old school match in that both Cody and Orton both excel at just. To me, I almost considered this match like almost very similar to like the Cody versus Dustin match, where you have two very similar like big brother, little brother dynamics here. And these are two guys that don't rely so much on flash, but instead great timing and great pacing. And with Randy Orton, I thought this was almost a master class in selling from him. I just thought he was so convincing. He's like I also love like. A Tomohiro Ishii type of selling, which I think, we've talked about plenty of times, and it's a lot more subtle. Randy is certainly a lot more animated, but I just thought it worked so well here to communicate exactly the extent of the pain of the injuries that he was suffering. I found it really interesting, the ways they found to aggravate the injury. If you really think about it, all of Orton's injuries were done to himself. Both whether it be the superplex or like the various backbreakers or like the exposed turnbuckle. Yes, Cody was aggravating it, but like the instances to cause the pain initially were all conducted by Randy. So I thought that was probably their way of like making it so that Cody wasn't so evil, and that it was really Orton hurting himself, and maybe that allows him to save face somehow. I thought it was an unexpected role for Cody in putting him in the aggressor role, and I think almost showed either they have a lot of confidence in Cody as a babyface, to be able to withstand a night of maybe potential heel heat, in this match against Randy, or they're throwing those teasers out there of a potential Cody Rhodes heel turn sooner or later. I thought they could have also elevated this match with a few more false finishes, but I also felt they were probably deliberately holding back because I think we could tell from, the end of this match, they were definitely teasing a continuation.
Yeah, I liked actually the pacing of this. It was one of my issues with the Cena Orton match that I know a lot of people liked, but to me it was like they relied so heavily on just the near fall, and we were going to be getting like that is now the Cena main event blueprint. So I like this match quite a bit. They had a crowd that this match was not going to fail, and they did a really nice job with the backstory. I agree, it leaves it open to do something down the road, and it's almost like a redo of like the Kevin Owens story that like he didn't have the killer instinct when he had the opportunity to punt Cody in the head, and you have Randy that comes out of this that he didn't have this ruthless aggression towards Cody. So it does give you some fuel for down the road.
I would almost say like it's a bit of a Levesque cliche at this point, to do this type of story. I mean, and you can understand why he would go to this playbook because it allows you to do the first match and then you get to do the second match with a bit more heat attached to it. That seems to be the direction here. They are heavily hinting at like, so they didn't necessarily show this, but like I get the sense Orton didn't shake his hand or something like that because Cody was looking back very concerned. You have Orton snarling at Cody on his walk up to the ramp. So they'll be running this one back, and we can only assume that it'll be after SummerSlam, obviously, since Cody will be going for the championship.
19 minutes and 45 seconds this one goes, and Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce present the crown, and Cody thanks Randy for being his mentor, a future Hall of Famer, and he says he will face either Cena or Punk at SummerSlam, because at SummerSlam, I get the ball back. So this is our new finishing the story. The quarterback is going to get the ball back.
Interesting.
Are we going to get some maybe New York Giants inspired merchandise for MetLife Stadium of
they're
Cody
just going to sell balls
reaching for a ball?
Yeah, sure. That's the new brass ring. It's just like a bunch of balls. Yeah, so Steve Austin took his ball and he went home.
Yes.
Now the ball, I guess, has just been like being passed around, and Cody will hopefully get.
Well, Cena and Cody collectively fumbled the ball at WrestleMania, so we'll get a scramble at.
They got to bring back Great Balls of Fire. It'll have much deeper meaning now. So I noticed certainly in this interview and also in our Queen of the Ring winners interview, a lot of sort of like preemptive. Hey, like I know people don't love me more than my opponent. And people are cheering my opponents more than they're cheering me, the lead babyface. But like, there's a lot of almost like, trying to make sure that like, hey, like I might not necessarily be getting the biggest babyface reactions, but you should still cheer me because. Did you notice that?
I did. And I'll just say for me, I don't know why they would be messing with this Cody formula at the moment. I think if they are looking at this guy being at the end of his babyface rope, it tells me that despite Paul's assertion and Nick Khan's assertion that they don't go online or check anything, you're really into the weeds if you are looking at this as some babyface that's at the end of his rope. I would not want to. There's a time, sure, that you could probably turn Cody. It is not now. And I would not be fanning the flames on this, especially when they've done just an extraordinary job with their number 2 babyface over this last 3 weeks.
The thing is, the flames have already been fanned with the whole Dwayne Johnson, I Want Your Soul thing, and it tells me that like they might be revisiting that, because I think if Dwayne were to come back, it would probably be picking something back up with Cody, and the whole soul thing. Is still like a lingering, I would say, loose end that hasn't really seen its conclusion yet.
Well, that's been the loose end of the year, Way. I don't know if that's getting tightened up anytime soon.
The man is 300 steps ahead. Okay.
Yeah, wait for Cena's next promo when he explains how that was all part of it to make you all think about Dwayne Johnson when you shouldn't have been. So yes, we had shots throughout the night of various champions. The Street Profits were there. Julia, the new U.S. champion. Legado with their AAA tag titles. Tiffany Stratton, all there. street fight between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. And what is our number one piece of advice for young talent? If you are friends with someone in the company, or if you're an aspiring wrestler, take lots of photos, videos, and if you want to, get matching tattoos, because it could work out for you if you are Rhea and Raquel, less so if you're Toni Storm and Deonna Purrazzo.
Yeah, the matching tattoos was something I did not know about these two. I mean,
they explained this in NXT when they, going back several years, when they have feuded at multiple points at this time. But this was a very good video package for a match that really felt shoved onto this show, because this could have used a bit more buildup, I think, on television, that probably circumstances dictated moving this one up.
Yeah. I don't exactly remember the timeline, but was this built up post Liv Morgan injury, or did they have plans for this initially?
I mean, they had started doing stuff between Raquel and Rhea, so they were definitely teasing it. It was just, it got kind of announced out of nowhere this past Monday, that just my thinking would have been that this one felt like something that maybe they would have pushed a little bit further to.
It's a shame they didn't have more time to tell the story. But perhaps, like, if this was never supposed to be on the show anyway, maybe they should be grateful that they got a match at all.
So Raquel is overpowering her at the beginning and controlling her, gets a kendo stick involved, but then Rhea kicks a chair into Raquel's face, frees herself, and they fight onto the Arabic desk. And Rhea goes for a cannonball, which Raquel catches on the floor and powerbombs Rhea into the timekeeper's area, brings out the non-branded table and places the steps onto the apron, but Rhea then drills Raquel into those steps and starts whipping her with her belt, hits a razor's edge, and applies the prism trap when Roxanne Perez makes her way into the ring, attacking Rhea, and Rhea chases Perez, suplexes her on the floor, and then puts a trash can over Perez's head and nails her with a kick. So that takes Perez out of things. Raquel then takes Ripley, runs her shoulder first into the post and then the steps that had remained on the edge of the apron all this time, and a Tejana bomb gets countered, and they set up a table on the corner turnbuckle, and Rhea is on top, somehow manages to get Raquel on top of this table. And this table holds these two up as Rhea proceeds to hit a riptide off the table to the mat and pins Raquel in 14 minutes in a match that I would say was... I thought these two did really well in this match overall. I thought that this was certainly a rare opportunity for Raquel to get a spotlighted match, and I thought these two kind of overachieved for what was a match that was kind of hastily put together. I wouldn't put this as the match of the show, but I thought this was on the higher end of things. I did enjoy it for the time they had.
I agree with you. I thought this was a good match, and I think we could say, like, the biggest platform that Raquel Gonzalez
literally off that table.
That's right. Yeah. The biggest platform she's had probably since her days in NXT. And, Wade mentioned it even on commentary, but I think, like, it's been pretty obvious, like, seeing her even a part of the Judgment Day on screen. I think she struggled to live up to, like, I think the larger than life confidence that you need for a heel giant. And she's been a decent side character for Liv, but I wouldn't say her presence has been large enough to garner, like, that much attention, in my opinion. And so I would say, as unfortunate as this injury was to Liv, to see Raquel Gonzalez take center stage in a match like this, in an environment like this, in front of a crowd this big, it was kind of heartwarming to see, especially knowing a little bit about her medical issues and the struggle she's had just even coming back. So I'm sure it was a great personal achievement for her, and she did very well. So I hope to see that growth continue in a team with Roxanne, or maybe even as a singles. I thought the two ended up delivering, like, a good amount of carnage that you would expect of, like, a street fight, standard. Rhea, a very effective babyface as usual, and I think a cool finish. So my only nitpick is, like, listen, like, okay, so in Saudi, everybody gets, like, special outfits. This was a case where, like, everybody was, like, in this match between Rhea, Raquel, and Roxanne. They all were wearing, like, black pleather, and I understand they all have Judgment Day, like, sort of history. But man, I don't know. I kind of feel like the wardrobe department could have, like, changed things up just a little bit for one of them.
They could have expanded the color palette a little bit.
Yeah,
perhaps. I think the street fight gimmick did add to this match. I think that helped a lot as well. So we'll see if they run this one back and continue it. But I guess Raquel retaining the tag titles in this match as well. Our sole tag champion for now.
A decision is about to be made about
Yes.
those tag titles, so we shall see. We shall see what these two have for Evolution.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really do a tournament, can you?
Of course you can.
With who?
They have enough people that they can make
Just
a team.
mix and match together.
Make a
it's like
tournament
Natalia and Maxine and
well, Raquel and Roxanne. Trying to think who else.
okay, so we have a 2-person tournament.
Michin and
BFAB, you're right. You're
Okay,
right.
you can
So
bring
we're
some
up
teams
to
up
3.
NXT.
Can we get 4 teams? Can we get a 4-team tournament? Because we're not getting 8.
The Secret Service. Okay, shall I go on?
Okay, how many
will.
matches have the Secret Service had as a tag?
I mean,
1.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn was next. Sami Zayn, once again, like Saturday Night's main event, was in the Palestinian colors, and the crowd was red hot for Sami. And this really does tell you the amount of mileage they get out of Karrion Kross matches, because how many people have forgotten about him and Scarlett's entrance? Like, this was one of the rare times he's gotten to do his entrance.
Oh yeah, I mean,
his entrance is usually walking in off camera backstage. That's his entrance.
It is, yeah.
So Zayn lands a moonsault off the barricade, and then inside the ring, Kross catches him with the first of several Doomsday Saitos. And Kross stops Zayn's momentum with a DVD, goes for the Kross jacket, which is quickly turned into another Doomsday Saito. Sets up for the Kross hammer, and Zayn ducks, hits the blue thunderbomb and exploder into the corner. Sets up for the haluva, but he runs and is caught in the Kross jacket. And Zayn is down, the hooks are in, and with his last gasp of air, he makes it to the rope. In a modern setting, like when you lift the arm up and it's lifeless, it's like, is that not like, what does that signal? Like if the arm goes down once, like doesn't that mean like you're out?
It just means maybe he's tired, but he's not near like death.
Okay, he can manage 2 of these, but a third he could be in critical condition.
Yeah, that is the probably scientific way to determine if somebody is still alive.
The ending came after Sami Zayn had a thread of life left in him. His power bar came up to half, and he's set up in the corner. Kross hits a running clothesline into the corner and keeps telling Sami, say that Kross told the truth. Which is, could be our finale to this feud. Instead of an I Quit match, it is say Kross told the truth match. So he runs one more time for a running clothesline, and this time gets caught with the haluva out of nowhere, and Sami wins in 13 minutes and 35 seconds. I would say on the Sami Zayn scale of matches, I thought this was below par. It just kind of felt to me like at best, passable TV match, and I wouldn't have watched this and said, man, what an untapped talent in Karrion Kross they have got. Like, it just sort of felt like a match on this show, and I didn't think it stood out to me in a big way, especially for Sami Zayn in Saudi Arabia, where you did have like a massive babyface as one of the components.
I thought if there was any sort of like memorable element to the match, it's just seeing Sami Zayn in Saudi Arabia. And I thought the match, you could say it worked strictly because it was Sami Zayn in Saudi Arabia and this crowd's love for him. And I think it's just really cool to see a Muslim like representing, you know, his heritage on screen in a sport that has like traditionally demonized that sort of thing. You know, to see it presented in a babyface light via somebody like a Sami Zayn, I think is it continues to be like one of the few great things about these series of shows. I was like maybe you, John, most interested to see how a Karrion Kross was going to come across here because of the groundswell of like momentum he's achieved online. Could that be parlayed into like a sustained, you know, full career with matches? And I think that required a dynamic performance from him, and we didn't get that. Like in ring, he does moves like well, like those suplexes look good. The choke, I guess, looks, you know, legit. But like the rest of the match was kind of boring. Like I didn't really sense much of a dynamic performance from him, and this kind of even extended to like his run in NXT. I just, you know, if I'm Levesque, I don't know if this managed to convince me to like take him into the ring, or I might have just been more firm to just keep him as like an out of ring backstage type of character.
Yeah, I think it's something that there's a number of performers of, you know, they may be great talkers, great personalities. They have the quote unquote star look, but it doesn't automatically mean that is just going to carry you like being good is just not good enough. Like there is a certain level that I think the audience does expect, and for whatever you want to look at in terms of like what the bar is for a WWE like pay-per-view level, like it is something, and that is ultimately going to be a difference maker for some that are perceived at that level and others who are not. And I think like we'll get into some of those as well.
I also didn't really understand like what is Kross's ultimate motivation in all of this, okay? Because we saw on Monday he got beaten up by Zayn and then looked at Scarlett and says, got him. Okay, so we can assume it was his plan to get beaten up and challenged by Zayn for a match in Saudi Arabia. Got on the card, sure. But then in the match, it seemed like his goal was to get Sami Zayn to apologize and to admit that Zayn was a liar. So is that ultimately what he's trying to achieve here?
Yeah, that he thinks Zayn is he's an awful person and he has not admitted it yet. But I wouldn't say he has any impetus to even entertain this argument from Kross beyond this.
But we
like,
know.
Do you want to see this continue after?
No, not really. Now I want to see the interactions continue between these two, but not in ring. Like I just kind of want to see them like backstage. So part of the Karrion Kross playbook is he will lose and lose and lose and lose, and somehow at the end of it say that it was all part of his plan, right? He did it with like AJ, did it with like whatever, like everybody. Did Nakamura.
Well, if Zayn turns, this guy's got that in his back pocket.
Well, let's just see how Kross manages to frame this as a win for him.
There were several mentions of their return for the Royal Rumble in Riyadh, which they never gave a date. They just said first part of 2026. So I'm imagining they have not solidified the date yet, or they would have mentioned it here. But that will be their return. So no fall show like usual. Jacob Fatu solo Sikoa for the U.S. Championship. Fatu is on offense at the beginning, and Sikoa rolls away from the springboard moonsault and manages a spinning solo onto the edge of the apron, and then proceeds to hit the hip attack and applies the rear chin lock and starts telling Fatu, "I loved you." And this rallies Fatu to get the crowd. He pops up from a rotating suplex, and then it's Fatu on offense with the Impaler DDT and a Swanton, which leads to JC Mateo running down. We're now a month in. I'm still not used to JC Mateo.
I'm pretty used to it, honestly, at this point. Yeah.
Well, this is another distraction meant to subvert, because then this sets up the big return of Tonga Loa, who attacks Fatu behind the ref's back with a spinning neckbreaker off the turnbuckle, which only generates a 2 count. Welcome back, Tonga Loa.
I'll tell you, I've missed Tonga Loa, primarily because he is the least effective member of the roster for anybody's faction anywhere, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see, or at least happy to see, that role seems to have continued. Where after like months away, okay, the man makes his big return, only to be completely ineffective in just what he was trying to attempt.
And overshadowed momentarily as we get to the next chapter here. Yeah. Fatu is recovering from the spinning neckbreaker, which, as we mentioned, not that effective, because he manages to duck the Samoan spike, and a handspring knocks Mateo and Tonga off the apron, and then Jacob Fatu hits a Fosbury flop to both men on the floor. Awesome. Jacob Fatu looked great here. And then he hits the hip attack, a springboard moonsault onto Sikoa, and this was like ridiculous, because the referee has gone over to check on JC Mateo, to check on him after the hip attack, and his back, they didn't shoot him, but in theory his back was turned for like 2 minutes, because he doesn't see Hikuleo appear, he doesn't see Hikuleo pull Fatu to the floor, and he doesn't see Hikuleo chokeslam Jacob Fatu through a desk, nor does he see Hikuleo roll him back into the ring, where Sikoa then proceeds to hit a Samoan spike and win the match. Hikuleo, who was, correct me if I'm wrong, was never called that.
No, in fact, he was.
I think his ring name is currently, we've seen him destroy people in Japan.
It was that, or wait, do you know who that is? That's Tonga Loa, Tonga's brother. Yeah, like that is his full name. So
he also went from he's 7 feet tall to 2 minutes later, he's a smidge under 7 feet tall. He shrunk in like 2 minutes.
He will get
maybe that would be a smidge. Maybe Smidge has joined the family.
So the fact that they didn't tell us his name, like on the first day, suggests to me that they are either workshopping or just waiting to debut.
Oh, please
a new
be
name for him.
Tala Tonga.
I mean that is something that
Tallest Tonga.
That is even better. That is something they have actually copyrighted.
Yes.
So I'm gonna call him Tala Tonga from this point on. Okay. So
Tala Bill.
I don't think so. Not that one. That's a step too far, John. Okay. I thought the crowd gave him a pretty good reaction here. Did you?
Yeah, I thought so. I would honestly, if I was mapping this out and you were to tell me this was going to be the arrival of Hikuleo, I would definitely have my, are people going to pop for this? Like, it is a run-in that is going to generate that.
Everybody must have watched those dark match, those main event dark matches.
We have a few, dark match consumers. But yeah. I would have said that Tonga Loa showing up 2 minutes before might have, watered this down a little bit. But it didn't, so they still reacted.
I don't think so. I thought it made it better.
Okay, well,
I think Tonga Loa's role is to strictly be there to show how, if by him being so ineffective, he's supposed to show how effective the others are. I
think Hikuleo is here to show New Japan talent the concerns about signing with WWE and appearing in true. WWE.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. JC Mateo is not really a step much higher than Tonga Loa at this point. He too has just become like wallpaper in this group. Pretty forgettable. So we'll see if Tala Tonga will fare any better.
Saxton. We go next.
What do you think of the match?
I thought there were parts where Jacob Fatu was certainly the standout here. I wouldn't call this match great. I would put it above Zayn and Kross, but I was
yeah. For how much time they this program has had, I was pretty disappointed by the lack of reaction from this crowd, and it could just be Riyadh not responding to this particular program. But I don't know. I didn't really sense that much interest, and
they got into it when Jacob Fatu was on offense, and a lot of it was him selling, which they were not into. It wasn't that dynamic of a match when Sikoa was controlling it.
And they got into it once the interferences happened. Yeah. So maybe that's just what people are trained to recognize about these sort of bloodline matches. They know nothing really happens until somebody gets involved. So the story is we saw Jimmy and Jacob will probably be teaming up against this new 4-person bloodline.
Where the hell was Jimmy?
Well, they kind of explained that, right? Last night they had a scene where both were kind of too manly to admit that they want each other's help. And
but Jimmy also said, I should have stood up to Solo just like you have. He had the opportunity here. He could have stood up to his younger brother.
Yeah. Maybe he flew back home already.
Yeah, he wasn't sticking around for more.
No.
Asuka against Jade Cargill, Queen of the Ring final. So Asuka works the knee of Jade. So Jade had to sell for a lot of this. She escapes a knee bar and does a fall-away slam into a kip-up, and then gave the slightest grimace to acknowledge, as Cole says, might not have been the smartest idea. Asuka lands a missile drop kick, and we saw several attempts at Jaded, which Asuka would counter out of. Jade managed to sit out powerbomb after ducking a head kick, and then Jade gets caught in an armbar, but she rolls on top, drills Asuka with a kick, and then Jaded gets countered into the Asuka lock, but Jade rolls back on top, and the crowd starts cheering for Asuka here. She goes for the Empress Impact, and it's caught by Jade, who then turns it into Jaded, and the way this was shot was you couldn't really see Asuka's shoulder, but this totally felt like a Gunther Randy Orton spot from last year where Jade rolled back so far that there was no way Asuka's shoulder didn't pop right up at the back here. This looked like a really sloppy cover. In fact, it looked like Jade might have been pinned here. 8 minutes and 35 seconds.
You're right. Wow.
Yeah. There's no way Asuka's shoulder was down, and during the replay, they never chose any other angle. Yeah, I thought the ending was not smooth here at all. I thought Asuka worked well, but man, I think a lot of the criticism towards Jade is warranted at times. This was a short match. It's not like they were that hot towards Jade. And then the whole post-match was this inspirational speech from Jade about, she said that she felt the world was on her shoulders. I'm like, no, that was Asuka on top of your shoulders. She says, people who are down on yourselves, praise yourself, fight through the boos. Don't let them tell you who you are. You show them. The grind doesn't stop, and a storm is coming for SummerSlam.
So yeah, like I would say, like the Cody promo, like it almost felt like they had scripted this preemptively, assuming that people were going to boo Jade or boo Cody, you know, in their respective matches. And I had wondered if that would be the reaction after seeing the pro reaction to Asuka on Friday. They were certainly pro Asuka in this match too, but they didn't like hate Jade enough.
They were never anti-Cody or anti-Jade in these matches. They got really heated for Orton and Asuka in the respective matches.
But I'll tell you what was concerning. I thought when Jade won the King of the Ring here, Queen of the Ring, the reaction to the pinfall was the flattest like pinfall for a babyface like winning a major match that you've ever heard. Certainly like one of the flatter reactions to like a big Jade win that I've ever heard. So I almost wonder if that's more concerning, you know, rather than boos, apathy, you know, toward this Jade Cargill win. And listen, like, I don't know how much like we are to take from like a Riyadh crowd reaction to like, you know, the rest of the world. I'm not really sure, but I do think there is continued growing sentiment out there about Jade Cargill being over pushed and undeserving of, you know, this level of, you know, wins and just like I would say story and just promotion. And that certainly is evident when you're promoting her and pushing her above somebody like an Asuka, who I think many consider to be like one of the most merit-based sort of success stories in the company, but because she's so technically skilled. Jade Cargill, for as much as I think like she may be at a certain level, there's still a huge gulf in terms of in-ring skill level between the two. And I don't think in pro wrestling, everybody should just be like pushed because they're a great worker. Certainly like when we look at talent, there are talents in ways that you can measure beyond just in ring. And Jade has a lot of those qualities. To look the way she does requires a whole lot of hard work that probably isn't, you know, evident to most wrestling fans. So there's enough reason to push her, but I will say in 2025, you have to have a certain standard of in-ring ability and in-ring sort of like, I would say even entertainment value. And I think the holes are really starting to show when you're putting Jade in these sort of like big pressure situations, en route to a championship right now, you know, in a title match. And I do think like they're approaching the limit of, I think, what a crowd may be able to accept for her.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's just an easy switch of does she come across better as a heel, but I do feel pretty confident that if they continue with like the Naomi Jade direction, I think the audience is going to switch both of them in that situation. Like certainly if you have a situation where Jade were to win this title and get cashed in on by Naomi, like yes, it's the cash in, but I think it would just totally turn Naomi at that point. And maybe that's not the worst idea. Like you can run with it, but I agree with a lot of your sentiment. And it's not just, you know, great wrestling is one tool to get over. You ultimately want to get over to your audience, and wrestling is one thing. And it's however you get over, and it's not like a Ron Killings, maybe up until, you know, recently, was super over, and this guy's never going to be accused of being the most dynamic wrestler, but he was over and he had a connection with people. And when you're over, you're over. And Jade at this point, it does feel like someone that I know it's been a while now that she's been in this role, and has she reached the level that is it's getting higher and higher of the expectation.
If there's improvement, I think it's happening at a pretty slow rate. And I would suggest, like, I don't know if like a year's ring time is going to necessarily make Jade that much better. So maybe the timing is about as good as it's going to get to push her into this sort of like championship challenger type of role, at least. But I do think they could support her in other ways and make her interesting in other ways. And I would say that they need more story to make her feel like a sympathetic babyface. So we'll see if they can achieve that.
Monday's Raw, which airs at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. New Day against Finn Balor and JD McDonough for the tag titles, and Sheamus against Rusev. And when are we going live on Monday, Wai? This is on you. Normal time?
It's probably going to have to be normal time. Like, I can't.
That's fine. 10:30.
Yeah, it's hard
Eastern.
to watch at 6 o'clock.
So no, that's fine with me. I just I wanted to alert everybody what time we will be up Monday night after Raw on Netflix. Cena and CM Punk for the Undisputed WWE Championship. Punk comes out and got like, what would you say, Wai? Like 80% positive reaction, if not more?
I would say more than that. Like, if there was any sort of like negativity towards Punk, I think they were totally drowned out or like made silent by, what was obviously a very pro Punk crowd. So, like, I think we can ask the question, like, how much of this is due to the apology? How much of this was just going to exist anyway, even without the apology? Yes, he was
probably a bit of both.
Yes, he was booed at the kickoff, but I can also suggest those are probably the most hardcore audiences that are reading everything online. The people that are attending the show, maybe we can assume it to be a little bit more casual. So whatever. It was a very positive Punk reaction. Yeah.
He comes out and much like their match at Money in the Bank, he sits dead center in the middle of the ring, awaiting Cena's entrance. He did not go to the floor and stand in front of Ace Steel and Colt Cabana like 2011.
No. At least one of those. Well, neither of them were here, I'm assuming.
They were not. So. Cena makes his entrance, and I mean, this place is electric. For the start of this, they explain they are 6-6 with one draw in their past singles meetings, and crowd is singing. They're just having the time of their life at the beginning of this. And
6-6, does that include like house show matches? Or
I did not go and check this. I can't imagine they did not have many more singles matches than 13.
Oh, okay. Because like even 6-6, I guess somehow it feels like it's a lot to me, but maybe that's just because one of them is so well remembered.
Yeah, I'd have to fact check that number, but that was what was cited on the broadcast. So they start slow, but this place is going insane. Like this was a lot like Cody and Orton, where they were just milking the reaction for this crowd that were going wild. Punk would apply, as Cole would call it, an octopus, and Wade rightly connects it as like AJ Lee's Black Widow that he was using.
Yeah,
so
sharp.
Cena hits the 5-knuckle shuffle and goes for his first AA, and it's countered, and Punk goes to his first of many neck breakers in this match. Maybe he had more success than Tonga Loa earlier. Cena then gets caught with the step-up knee, the savage elbow, and Punk is ready to call for the GTS, but Cena turns into an STF. Punk counters into the Anaconda Vice, and Cena lifts him up for his first AA and the first near fall. Punk then catches Cena in his own STF, and it's Cena getting out of that. He hits a second AA for a 2 count, and then a super AA is thwarted by elbows from Punk, who hits a high cross. Cena rolls over and hits his third AA for a near fall, and Cena giving us his closest Ruby Soho he had in his arsenal, and decides, F this. He goes to grab the championship belt. This should be the finish of every one of his matches, because what does this guy care? He's just going to get himself disqualified. But he is warned by Dan Engler, and Cena opts not to use the belt. So Punk blocks an AA, and he hits the GTS. Now it's Cena's turn to kick out. Then, as Cena goes for his running shoulder tackle, he takes out Dan Engler, who is dead. He is on the ground. This devastating shoulder block that eliminates this man from consciousness. Has ever happened to you? Took one bad in the shoulder and you're out cold?
I've never taken a John Cena shoulder block.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe it was those crazy veins, like the roadmap veins that he's got that sent him into a coma. So, of course, Punk hits a GTS, but there's no one there to count. And as Punk is signaling for another ref to come, out walk Seth Rollins and crew with the Money in the Bank briefcase. They took their goddamn time walking down this stage for about 5 minutes as they just stood there waiting and waiting. And Rollins sends Breaker and Reed to go after Punk, and Punk fights them off. And then Punk goes for this pescado and nearly killed himself. He was going straight down, and then Breaker and Reed, who saw this man escape death, decided, you know what, let's really try to kill him, as they went for their own version of high times, and there was no high to this for CM Punk, who does not get high, and didn't on this chokeslam, as he was barely put through this desk. I don't know how this thing broke, because he got like a centimeter off the ground. So he's out. The crowd is chanting OTC as Rollins waves down Charles Robinson. And while he isn't quite at WrestleMania 24 speeds, man can still sprint down a stage. And
very impressive, honestly. Like, what, that was 16 years ago? And I have to feel like this was like an attempt at them like putting Charles Robinson specifically in this spot to replicate.
Well, unlike WrestleMania 24, he wasn't taking a bump after the sprint, because this one, he runs down and Cena takes him out. And there goes Charles.
They're building up to that big match, I think. One of Cena's final matches.
Charles Robinson?
Yeah.
Maybe that will be when he, he can't face Flair for the record, so he'll face Lil H.
Right.
So Cena then hits an AA to Rollins, preventing him from cashing in as Breakker and Reed go after Cena. Penta comes out. He fights Braun up the stage. Sami is out next, fighting with Braun. So they make their way by the stage, and Penta dives off the stage, so that takes Breakker out of the mix. Reed tries for a tsunami, but Punk shoves him off into an AA, and Cena and Punk are left alone. And this is the furthest tease we have had so far of Cena coming back to his babyface skin. And they stare at one another. Everyone's been taken out, and Punk extends his hand. Cena accepts the handshake, pulls him in right back to Elimination Chamber, and he stares into the camera and then walks back, goes for the low blow, but Punk is ready for it. This is some calculated shit by CM Punk if he knew all this was coming from his handshake offer. So he stops the low blow. When Rollins returns, blasts Punk with the briefcase and a stomp as Cena tosses Rollins out of the ring, and he pins Punk in 26 minutes and 15 seconds, retaining the title. And he walks back with this just shit-eating grin at the entrance as he walks off holding up the belt, ending the show. I have been exceptionally underwhelmed by John Cena throughout this year. I thought this was like a really well-booked match in terms of, I know if you like hate run-ins, that's fine, but I thought they had a purpose for a lot of stuff in here. I thought you dangled the eventual Cena turn, and I like the fact that they teased it and then ripped it away from you. I think by the end of this, I was not expecting Punk and Cena to come out and have like their all-time greatest, but they certainly did not embarrass themselves, and they had like a perfectly serviceable main event. It's heavily reliant on the kickouts of the finishers, but it worked. The audience saw these two as the biggest stars on the show significantly, and I think by the end of this, I came away with this like this was a main event that I was not down on by the end of it, and I cannot say that about too many of these Cena matches this year.
At this point, like in the Cena run, I think like a reliance on bells and whistles is to be expected, and also almost even like something that they should be doing in order to ensure the entertainment success of a match like this. So I think it's entirely fair game, and I thought it resulted in a successful John Cena main event, which is almost a bit more of a rarity to discuss these days. I really love the finish. I thought Cena's teases of turning back babyface, it was an unexpected direction that I bought into. I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe SummerSlam is like when this whole thing ends. Maybe they are changing course like prematurely. That could still happen, but I love the fact that they took it away. I think it works as a teaser for the face turn, but it also works to make Cena in this instance look more heelish and manipulative in that sort of like Mark Henry, salmon suit swerve sort of way. So I really liked it. I liked using the confusion of Rollins coming in order to give Cena what ultimately ended up being a cowardly win. I thought that was a very smart out. And
not to interrupt, but I think the Rollins involvement here, I think, could end up being very key to this eventual babyface turn. Like Rollins could be that device. You've created this rift now with Cena and Rollins that can play itself out. Rollins is now a further threat to Cena to cash in, and that could be a component to eventually do this turn, and Rollins is the one that gets him there.
Yeah, the Rollins stuff has to me been pretty unexpected, just because he's a Raw guy. So I mean, I think like in our minds we probably mostly associate him taking Gunther's championship. So his appearance here I thought was very well done here, and they made some very good creative choices to mask Cena's limitations. The match itself I thought was like an above average match from what we've been getting from Cena, very reliant on hitting the big moves and finishers, and I thought that worked really well with this already very strong crowd.
Yeah, so that ended the show that I would say was highlighted by the two matches that bookended the show. I would say were the strongest ones, and I would throw the street fight in there. The middle three I found to be underwhelming in terms of the middle of the show. So I would go like thumbs in the middle on this show overall. But you started with like great atmosphere, enjoyable match with Cody and Randy that leaves itself open. And the main event, I will say, it over-delivered for my relatively average expectations that I had for this one.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it was an interesting show to discuss, just as these Saudi shows always tend to be, but also because of the CM Punk element and just all the sort of unexpected reactions that were to go into it. If their goal was to make sure that things were going as planned and that this audience would be not booing CM Punk, they were successful in doing that. And we could discuss the fallout of that and what effect that might have on this side of the planet. But anyway, tonight they ended up with a successful show that I think went according to plan. Orton versus Cody probably ended up like being my actual favorite match, like when we're talking bell to bell action. But as a main event, the Cena Punk match certainly delivered as well. So yeah.
I did like the booking of the main event overall. I'm not always the fan of like a million run-ins, but I did think it serviced the match and more so kind of future stories as well. Would you look at Punk and Rollins as the SummerSlam match after this?
Punk and Rollins as a result of this. Who else is Rollins being paired with right now? Who else has he been teasing with? He's kind of been teased with everybody. So we got Penta and Breaker. That's one thing.
Like it just feels based on the finish here, you have to have some incarnation of Punk and Rollins and running that one back again.
Again? It feels like we've done that one so much.
I mean, you need Punk in a pretty high profile match, and that's the only person he's linked with is Rollins, costing him the championship here.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, sure.
It's two nights. Like you've got to have something. What
about Roman? He's still there.
Yeah, I mean Roman, you could figure in somewhere here. I don't see them doing that triple threat again.
No. But I mean, like, you know, the moment Rollins comes out, people are chanting OTC, so like that's a potential matchup they could do for SummerSlam. And Punk, there's still a lot of things that they could do with him. But I probably need to actually sit down and think about it a bit more. We have some quotes on the site from the post show.
Okay. Via
Neil Flanagan at postwrestling.com. So. The headline here, according to Neil, I've not read this yet, but Neil has, the headline is Paul Levesque proud of CM Punk for his apology. Paul Levesque joined the Night of Champions post-show panel, sitting down with Jackie Redmond and Byron Saxton. He thanked Turki Al-Sheikh, chair of the regime's General Entertainment Authority. He then turned to the match between Punk and John Cena, and Levesque said, "If you'd have told me 10 years ago that CM Punk would be here in Saudi for the WWE, I would have thought you're out of your mind." Has the Saudi thing been 10 years yet?
You'd have told me 10 years ago that Punk would be here in Saudi for WWE. I mean, he left WWE, 11 years ago, 11 and a half
but the
years
Saudi
ago?
thing, the Saudi deal hasn't even been...
The Saudi deal started in 18.
Okay, anyway. He says, but people grow, people change, people evolve, and they learn a lot in life. And I think not only was I privileged to watch them this week as they prepared for this fight, I was privileged to watch two men grow as people, especially CM Punk. He added... I was privileged to watch him grow as a human being, to step out here and apologize to the people of Saudi, to just cherish where he is at in life and his career and the things he gets to do and the opportunities that he has. And I was incredibly proud of him.
Okay, well, that's great. Paul was very
okay.
Happy.
So it was growth, personal growth from CM Punk that led to the apology. Okay, I'm sure plenty will be deciphered from any of these words that are attached to this story in the days to come.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does leave the opportunity if Punk ever on his own platform of such or in some kind of media setting ever goes more into this as well. Like, I'm sure that would be the tack that he would take. Yeah, I think, listen, I think there's a lot of anti-sentiment towards CM Punk, just that when you combine the apology that I was in a bad mood that day, I mean, and then you throw the Barstool Sports clip at him, like that doesn't really hold water. I think for that, like it was not as though he was upset one morning at the Miz and said, go suck a biannual European tour dick. You know what I mean? Like he chose a very specific region, attaching that description to as well. And I think that would certainly, you hear the Barstool Sports, like he clearly had a view of the Saudi Arabian government. And I think like that is a sentiment that many would share as well, that I would never take as a shot at the people of Saudi Arabia. And I think it's important to decipher that too. But
do you expect this sort of discourse surrounding Punk and Saudi to be as loud like come January, or is this like
the
peak?
I think that it was very much like, I just don't think Punk he'll be a major figure on that Rumble show, but I think now that he's here and did this show, I think this is the extent of it. I think they felt like this is the addressing of it, and it's going to be less and less in the future, if at all. Like it will be, I think, a much smaller topic, if one at all, come January.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
All right, we're going to say goodbye to everybody, but...
we got some feedback.
Oh, yes, we have feedback. My apologies. Brian from New Jersey. I just wanted to share my thoughts that if you want to look up to a tattooed Punk wrestler from Chicago, stick with Sky Blue. Remember her AEW appearance? She said she got excommunicated from her church as a kid for setting another kid on fire. I seem to remember this story. That's a lot more Punk than what CM has been doing. I'm not going to advocate for anyone lighting anyone on fire, by the way. She says... That's a lot more Punk than what CM has been doing on TV the past month, or even the last few years, since talking about his friend David Zaslav on the first episode of Collision.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a very easy heel turn for CM Punk here, like one that I could have seen them maybe at one point considering for this evening, being the opportunity to turn him. But they were pushing against that and successfully, doing so. But, like Punk has been kind of pushing this, like, I'm here for money, like whatever, like even dating back to like, being one Bill Phil, and all that. Like there's a very easy heel turn, like waiting for them with CM Punk as like this sort of like corporate, representative right now. Let's go to Jeremy in Texas, who says, this main event certainly was not the 2011 Money in the Bank match everyone fondly remembers. Was this match overbooked? Probably, but at least the finish was more than a belt shot to the face and furthered the Rollins-Punk feud. Now we're led back to Cody and Cena closing the second night of what could be a long SummerSlam weekend. What can be done with that program to avoid the disaster that was their match at WrestleMania? I think the bells and whistles that you saw similarly in a match like this, maybe playing with the Rollins cash in like they managed to, but I'm sure like also like the different types of surprises. I'm hoping like the story is strong in their lead up to this. I also wonder if like Cody will be like teasing this sort of flirtation with like being a heel a little bit more. Could Dwayne come back for SummerSlam?
Oh, we can start that discussion again.
Maybe. I don't know.
We'll do one more here. Mahmoud from Bahrain. Just a general question, and I don't mean to come off as combative, but why do you think the fan reception to Punk is different than Sami Zayn regarding going to Saudi Arabia? Sami stands up for a number of progressive causes, I'd say in a fashion more impactful and concrete given his foundation. Do you think the main difference is the past comments of Punk and the rebellious way he presents himself? Do you think Sami deserves any criticism for going? Always appreciate the discussion. I would say number one for Sami is that when this deal began, he was not given the option of going from, like, reportedly. It was that he was not allowed to go on these shows. And for several, up until he finally went a few years ago, it sounded like he was not in a hurry to go do these shows, and he was also not invited to these shows. So I really don't look at these as kind of similar instances. I think with Punk, it is ultimately, I think that you have someone who, flat out stated publicly, I'm never going to do one of those Saudi shows. And I think the tweet really gave everyone his insight onto what this was, like comparing it to blood money. Like, I'm not someone that says like, it doesn't mean this guy cannot navigate things and ultimately go back and do these shows. But I think you just look at it as though this is somebody that is like, how genuine do you believe this is? And is this simply, it's a transaction for his job that he is compromising something that previously he had felt very steadfast about. I think that's why you get some of that. Like, Sami Zayn is not someone that has gone out and spoke dismissively of the regime in Saudi Arabia or said, I will never do a Saudi Arabia show. There's several talents that did not go to some of these, Cena included, that has not received any flack for going back and doing them. I think just because, and CM Punk, I think, is a very specific individual that he's going to catch this a lot worse than someone else.
Yeah, I think Sami also, like, in his debut in Saudi Arabia, they did a lot of like sort of promotional attachment to him with his pilgrimage to Mecca, as like this sort of like representative of just like, like an Arabic speaking, person who is finally able to like maybe um be a representation for like people in that part of the world. And I think there's probably a lot more goodwill attached to something like that is specific to his attachment to the people rather than an attachment to the government of the country, that to me comes across probably a little bit better for optics. With Punk, I think there are just a lot of contradictions in regards to what he has like sort of represented in the past, and what he's been very vocal about with like trans rights and things like that, that others on the roster have been outspoken about as well, like a Finn Balor, for instance, like like trying to like selling those Balor Club is for everybody shirts, and also at the same time appearing on these Saudi shows. There was one instance where like he took a photo of the shirt like in the arena, as if to maybe acknowledge that sort of contradiction. But I think Punk, more than anybody, has been more vocal about like being this sort of like virtuistic like voice of the oppressed, and his silence on a lot of this stuff, and unwillingness to like directly discuss the contradiction, I think has been maybe the more glaring thing, because I think we just ultimately expect more of a CM Punk because of what he has communicated that he represents in the past.
Yeah, I think that he just, he has spoke very openly about a lot of these various issues, some that you may agree with or not agree with, but regardless, like he has injected those thoughts that, I mean, there are probably a lot of people on the roster that if they were to, do like a photo op with Donald Trump, like Paul Levesque excluded, would probably not get the flack that obviously like a CM Punk would in that kind of an instance. Like he has positioned himself. And I would think that this is one where there are some people that have they're not fans of CM Punk for whatever reasons. I think this is one where this one hit people that I think have constantly defended CM Punk, and it's tougher for them to defend this when they have in the past, that it's so openly a contradiction, and there's like CM Punk has not given any kind of, Paul Levesque gave a much longer discussion about this than Punk himself did. So, yeah. I mean, anyway, it was a major story.
Is he hiding from something is the question that we're kind of left asking. Like, are we getting Phil Brooks' true feelings on this topic and this subject? And if there is whatever, like Levesque is calling growth, well, what exactly does that growth represent? Like I think the CM Punk, for somebody who like vouches honesty and authenticity as much as he seems to, that's the type of discourse that his audience is expecting from him.
And I'll just go back to the simple question of wherever you fall on any of this, why you had the desire to make this part of the story. That's something WWE voluntarily did in all of this, was make this the impetus for him getting this title match. You could have eliminated all of that. Like, yes, you would have gotten flack online, but if you're Nick Khan, it's like, we're not online listening to the noise. We just, the numbers are there. Just, you program for the masses. You don't program for dissenting voices online. But they made this front and center, that you had to address this and go into it, where that was the predominant story of this whole show, was CM Punk going to Saudi Arabia and bringing up how many WWE viewers probably had no idea about this tweet until this story. Like, it's probably a significant amount that probably had no idea about any of this. Like, there's not everybody that is like online to this degree that would be aware of a tweet from 5.5 years ago, but it was part of the story. And I think it was fair game for whether you felt this was,
how much of it do you think is Cena himself, like wanting it to be a part of the story? Because like in video packages, like certainly on commentary or anything like that, like they never really like acknowledged it as like their version of the story. But the only people that have been referencing it has been John Cena.
I don't think he's acting rogue, if that's what you're asking. I think this was
But he does get a lot of control over his own stories and his promos.
Well, I think ultimately, like, it's approved. Like, that was the impetus for the match. Like, you're not just sending a guy out to set up a match and not knowing what, like, that was literally the reason to set up the match. So that was their direction, and they went with it. So like, we will see. Maybe a month from now, we look back and it was like, this is a weird period, but Punk regained all of his fanfare with his audience, and he's still a big babyface. That could very well be the question. But if there is a certain, pardon the pun, edge taken off of him, you can certainly question some of this booking. That I think you just look at Punk as someone that, you don't get baby faces at this level too often. And they have two big ones in Punk and Cody. And I would just be very cautious about presenting your baby faces in a way that would diminish that with your audience. And time will tell if that was the case here. But time is not of the essence, because we are going to sign off and say goodbye, unless Wai has something else. You have that look in your eyes.
Well, I was going to say, before we sign off, what a month we've got coming up in the Post Wrestling Cafe, everybody, okay? It is G1 season coming up. So with your membership right now, you get access to our G1 coverage that we are very proud at this point to continue every single year. That means coverage of every tournament match with John Pollock, myself, and our entire team of New Japan G1 reviewers coming on board to talk about that entire tournament. We're also going to be going to the movies, John and I, this next week, and we're going to be doing a special podcast talking about F1 the movie. Do you have your tickets yet?
No, I was planning to go tomorrow. Should I buy my ticket?
I don't know. I don't know how well it's necessarily doing, but the reviews seem to be pretty strong for it, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So
yes, so we're going to do a rare movie review this coming week, chatting about the new Brad Pitt film, F1, the movie. So a lot coming up over the next month. The G1 coverage begins the weekend of July 19th when the month-long tournament kicks off. We will have every tournament match reviewed over that month-long period. So a great time to jump on board the Post Wrestling Cafe. Your subscription also gets you access to the XL editions of Rewind to Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, which come with the whole news pack, and Wai and I discussing all of the major news events of that day. And of course, ad-free editions of the show, timestamps. This is the stuff you want to put your dollars behind, okay?
Timestamps are one of I think the most popular features, and they take a long time to do. I had to do the show myself last night. The timestamps took me forever, so I don't know how you do it as fast as you do, John.
I tried to stay up, and I was going to do them for you, but I was tired, dude. I had
no, it's Anyway,
but
John Pollock hand timestamps them themselves. There's no AI at work there, okay?
I come with few skills, but timestamps might be one of them. Sunday, I'll be live with Jack Winan. We will be chatting about UFC 317, which starts in just a couple of hours. So that will be up Sunday for members at Post Wrestling Cafe, featuring Ilya Taporia taking on Charles Oliveira in the main event, and Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara France, the man that Wai believes will be the new flyweight champion after tonight. I don't know. I'm not sure about that one, but Wai seems pretty adamant about it.
Yeah,
so check that out Sunday, and then Wai and I are back Monday night following, 10:30 Eastern, Monday night for Rewind to Raw. That is it, and thanks to everyone for checking out our Night of Champions show.